All right, here we are, another week. Onto the Trash Cast. Your host Mathias, along with the boys and a special guest.
John. I'm not a special guest.
Oh, that's me. I'm Will. Am I not the special guest?
No, not today. You're basically like a regular now.
Oh no, my gimmick.
Move your cardboard box somewhere else, and then we'll talk. But our special guest is good old Greg. Greg, welcome
I guess
back.
I'm the special guest again.
What's up, Greg?
Not much.
Glad to have you back, especially today because we got some Admech stuff, and I want to get your opinion on it since you have an Admech army that you
I
were
do.
pretty competitive with for a while.
I still am. I just chaos is way more fun.
Yeah, that's what I hear.
Just like the big old demons running around and stuff.
Well, first, I know John wants to talk about the newest trailer for a hired gun, so let's talk about that. John, you want to start us off while I get the video ready?
Have you seen this trailer?
I have. And I must say, it's okay. I mean, it is by the guys who did, what's it called? Space Hulk, right?
Yeah.
Deathwing?
And a lot of the Warhammer games they've done. I think Battlefield Gothic they did. But the big thing about the trailer that I really liked was I thought this game would just be like a Doom reskin with Necromunda or Warhammer, but it looks like an RPG, which is kind of cool.
I don't think they'd have the skills to perform like a Doom. I think it'd be like a half-ass kind of Doom kind of thing.
Well, because the first trailer was very like, high octane first person shooter jumping around, fast paced. But this, obviously it's still that, right? But it seems that it's gonna have some RPG elements. Like the trailer has like a lot of like going to like some hub areas, talking to NPCs and all that. I'm not sure what extent it's gonna be in, but this would be interesting because we haven't had a Warhammer RPG in like decades.
We talking about? We had Warhammer Martyr. That was like an RPG.
That's true. It's like a Diablo style RPG. That's true.
That was pretty fun. I enjoyed that one for a bit.
Yeah, I heard good things about that game.
It was okay. Just like how the 40K video game franchise usually is. You know, it's usually okay. Well, asterisk. It's a rare, I guess, to have a very decent game, I would say.
When are we expecting this game? Because I looked at the trailer and it was hard for me to tell if this is like in-game stuff or if this is trailer footage I'm looking at.
Well, if you're looking at the most recent trailer, it says June 1st.
Oh.
At least
So
on the digital
really
stores.
soon.
Pretty soon.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's coming out soon. I think this will be a game where I just kind of hold off and just wait for a sale kind of deal. Unless it's amazing, but going off Deathwing, the controls were a bit stiff. I mean, granted, you are a giant Terminator, so maybe it won't be as stiff as that game, but we'll see.
In Deathwing, however, you do not have a dog.
That's true.
This clearly makes up the difference.
I do like that world building, like, really puts you into perspective of what the Underhive is for Necro, which is kind of hard to depict in the tabletop because, like the sky is open when you play a tabletop game. It doesn't feel very cramped in the way that, the Underhive as a setting actually is.
Yeah, typically most tables don't have ceilings on them.
Right. So, like, there's an amp bot in the trailer. It's for like a second. That's pretty cool. So, I might get this early on if it's not terrible because just the setting that they're presenting is I find really entertaining and cool.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not the biggest Necromunda fan out there. There was a time where I hated Necromunda, but I think just watching this trailer, it hypes me in a way. It's like, oh, it's really cool to see this in a first-person video game RPG format. See all the gangs and all the tech, like the nitty-gritty 40K stuff. So yeah, unless it's terrible, I'll probably get a release date and let you guys know if it's worth picking up.
I'm glad you'll be the guinea pig.
Yes, absolutely.
But yeah, we'll see what happens. I'm always skeptical when a Warhammer game comes out and lets you know it's already part of a franchise such as Dawn of War. And that's also an asterisk, you know.
Oh right, because Dawn of War 3.
Dawn of War 3 was bad, but that wasn't part of like a a sequel to the main game kind of deal.
Right.
But yeah, we'll see what happens in basically a month from now. But anyways, I think very light news on Warhammer models, mainly due to the fact that we can't pre-order anything, so they're kind of just slowing down the news. But they have giving us more new Model Monday stuff for us to look at, and we'll start with the sister here. Another sister model with a big flag. I mean, it's a gorgeous looking model. I'm pretty sure that's not. I'm pretty sure that's on the model, right? What's on the flag?
I must assume it's an embossed banner on the front. I mean, the parchment is definitely freehand, but I don't think they're too much in the business of making completely freehand centerpiece like banner wavers anymore. I think it's just also like to a certain degree, even though that was kind of the way of the past with banners, that you would kind of paint your own. If you're starting out the hobby and Sisters is your first army, you probably want to buy a banner that you can actually have the model help you paint to a degree. I
Yeah.
think this is sculpted.
And going off of that, I think someone who would want to freehand would probably be willing to scrape that off anyway. I think. So yeah.
Well, either way, it's a beautiful looking model we got here.
How do you feel about the eyes, or the fact that she's closing her eyes? I've never seen that before.
Is she closing her eyes?
Yeah.
Gotta zoom in and enhance.
Because I don't see any eyes being painted.
Makes it easier for the new people to paint, because then they don't have to worry about the eyes.
And you don't have to get the bug eyes.
Very true.
Yeah, she does not. She's not doing the thing of some of those older Inquisition models that are just have, Muppet eyes, which is good. It's a more subtle face.
Yeah.
Well, and for people like me, we at least have the helmet option. Thank God.
The helmet is a half helmet, though.
Oh, wait, does the helmet not go all the way down? Oh,
Nope.
okay, so that's just a top angle. All right. Well then, never mind.
I guess you're not playing Sisters.
I guess that was the deal breaker right there.
Any exposed flesh, deal breaker.
Deal breaker. I don't want to paint
I see
flesh.
so much as the patella. This army is not for me.
What about you, Greg? What are your thoughts on this model?
I think the flag's great. That's the most eye-catching part of it, that it's all wrapped around her arm and like folded very nicely. That looks like fun fabric to paint is really what I see there.
Flag really holds the model together. Really pulls it together.
Well, as Greg said, this is the most eye-catching thing, which is something you'll need with all the new sister models that are coming out.
Yeah.
I really like how simple her melee weapon is. It's good because it doesn't. The flag is the focus, like sort of Greg pointed out, but her face is also again pretty simple. So like if she had like a giant crackling, chain glaive like weapon, like it would be a little distracting. But like the model's face and the banner are the focus, and she has a very simple but functional and still well sculpted sword. It's well composed, I would say.
I like how you always focus on the weapons of these models.
It's a war game, Matt. You gotta walk closer and hit people with your sword. That's how you win.
True.
If you have a sword.
I mean, couldn't you just throw the banner around? Big enough to be a weapon.
The banner is like actually like woven from like fiber ceramite or something. The banner gives her an invuln save just by cloaking it around herself. Would imagine that. It's a good looking mini. I like it actually a lot more than the sister model we looked at a week or two ago. I think this is the right level of low tech while also being sci-fi gothic. It hits the spot quite well. It's not a revolutionary miniature, but they don't all need to be.
Well, like I said, I believe last week, simple is sometimes better. You don't need to go too crazy on the models to make them stand out too much. Simple.
Simple is great. I remember painting some third-party obliterators, and like there was doodads on every square inch of them, and it was just like it looked terrible. No matter even it was just hard to paint because there was too much going on. And it's like you can't just paint a massive meat and las cannons and all kinds of stuff. You need something to not be super detailed on it. So
Composition is really important. Like where those little details and bits and bobs are placed, and on what kinds of models too. For like a miniature, like a character centerpiece model, like Gazgul Thraka or like Abaddon the Despoiler, those guys got a lot of detail. But even that, they don't have like skulls and dents and like demon faces on every inch of them. Like it's important to have some restraint, and I think this mini paint job also sort of sells that too. The banner is very ostentatious and in Warhammer lingo, resplendent. That's a word they like to use. It looks good. It's not overdone. Which I think the banner itself is the part of it that would be like overdone, but it's supposed to be. It also just fits with it's the BSB. It's the big banner that everybody else looks at and reminds themselves, "Oh yeah, I am a Sister of Battle."
I am fighting for the Holy Emperor here.
Just in case you forget.
Which could happen.
Hey, you see your battle brother go down, you go panicking.
It's like it's not too late to be a cultist.
There's always a chance to convert.
It's like, hey, Sister Jane, I need you to call those chaos guys. Let them know we're good to go. We can get some chain swords and
we filled out the paperwork. We're ready to apply.
Transfer anytime.
They're smaller models. They'd make great cultists.
I don't think we're gonna win this battle.
Yeah, it would make good cultists. But I think that's enough on this sister. Shall we move on to the next Model Monday model? Mouthful right there. The AOS version. The musician who brings life to the mortal realms. This person. Sylvaneth. Tree Spirit? I don't know what this is. I don't know the Sylvaneth well.
Tree Spirit is correct. You can pretty easily assume that almost everything in Sylvaneth is like a tree with feelings that decided to kill all non-trees. That's kind of their vibe. And it's actually it's funny, Matt, you say that. Like it's a very similar concept. This is sort of another kind of like banner waving kind of model. Like it's not a literal banner bearer, but this is like the Warsong Revenant is basically kind of filling a similar role of like an icon as opposed to a warrior.
Yeah. Well, I mean, with all the AOS showcase, I guess would be the best word. All the showcasing they've done, I mean, this one's probably one of the more toned down ones. Probably on the level of the Slanesh demons that we saw last week, I want to say.
Yeah, it has a lot going on, but
I don't think it has too much going on actually. Like when you compare it to Lord Croak and
this one could have gotten weird if like all of those petals that are hatching on top like were turning into different things. I think it could have muddied the focus a little bit more, but like it sells the idea enough that like, hey, there's a little owl beaver monster thing hatching out of there, and like it's presumably being caused to some degree by like the war song, Revenant song. So that's pretty cool. Actually, as a total aside, I love the base. The base is amazing.
Yeah, it's one of those things where like this model could have been way simpler, like you said, or on the flip side, this model could have been way more complicated, right? It also could have been way more simple. Like if you look at the guy itself, he's just kind of like another tree revenant, which is a Sylvaneth unit. But he has the back banner thing with the bugs. He has the base, like you mentioned, super detailed. It's really cool.
Yeah, well, I wanted to point down to the bottom picture here. And I want to say sorry to all my Tau bros out there. It looks like we are not getting any Vespid creatures. Because this leaked image, or not, Advent image is for Sylvaneth. Very sad.
Unless, Matt, that's a baby Vespid Stingwing, and Vespids are coming to Age of Sigmar.
They just migrated over because they're getting disrespected so hard in 40k.
Yep, that's the future of Mantis people with guns. Mantis people with bows would look great in Sylvaneth.
I will say though, this model is another example of Games Workshop telling people who want to 3D print anything that's not a Space Marine to just go screw themselves.
Yeah, it really is. It really is sort of planting throwing the gauntlet on that one. There's a lot of flimsiness here that you really couldn't get rid of. I mean, I suppose that without the back banner, even that it would be hard.
Even then, it's like the tentacles and stuff. Like
Sylvaneth in general, that's kind of a challenge. Like they make so much use of like hollow space and like sort of ethereal, like flimsy, sort of swoopy bits.
I think it's a trend in Age of Sigmar in general. If you look at the latest models to come out, there's a lot of negative space and yeah, like you said, the flowy ethereal or capes kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which is it's cool. I like it. If I cared about Sylvaneth, I would get this model.
What? You don't care about Sylvaneth?
No, it's not a vampire.
He's not a tree.
It could be a vampire actually.
This is the worst faction to back if you're not a tree. They really, really do not feel strongly about things that aren't made of bark.
Yes.
Greg, how do you feel about this miniature?
I thought it was Lady Oleander, to be honest, to begin with.
So did I.
It looks exactly like Lady Oleander. Like if you look at the two, they look very similar. That's what I thought about it in the beginning. It looks cool. Tree people are cool and stuff. But if you stood that next to Lady Oleander, it's pretty tough to tell the difference.
Well, you probably saw the silhouette first, right? Like I did.
I think I just saw this straight up, and I was like, "That's a really weird looking." Oh, it's actually Sylvaneth, not Night Haunt.
Yeah, I saw the silhouette first. I'm like, they adding another Night Haunt model like Lady Oleander.
The shape of the model is definitely very not Sylvaneth, or just the design, because Sylvaneth, if you look at Kurnoth Hunters, even Tree Revenants, they're very grounded and strong to evoke trees, while this one is very, very Night Haunt like.
I think I have to disagree. I feel like this one is a pretty natural extension. No pun intended there. I feel like this one is a good extension of what we've seen, particularly on the not the Warcry warband, the Underworlds warband for Sylvaneth, of the tree revenants having things growing out of them, aside from just being the ghostly image in the tree itself. I guess it's because it's another model that like in the fashion of a lot of the GW fantasy stuff for the last 5 years or so, it's floating, and the cape is definitely a big proportion of this model. I don't know. I think it still is pretty distinctly Sylvaneth to me, but Sylvaneth, tree revenants in particular, are also ghosts, very much in the same way that Night Haunt are. They phase in and out of things. It definitely has a spectral quality to it.
I mean, I think it's still Sylvaneth, but I think the design of just being this floating thing definitely stands out if you for the rest of Sylvaneth. It's to me it's kind of like putting a like what's it called, a sacrosanct a single sacrosanct stormcast in like an old cast army. Like clearly he stands out even though he's still a stormcast. I think that's the same image I'm seeing with this role, where if this was in a Sylvaneth army, he clearly stands out while still being Sylvaneth.
The question
Yes.
is that a bad thing?
No, I don't
No.
think so. I think it's actually good for design space.
Centerpiece models are always great. Even like semi piece models, like smaller characters too that stand out like this, always look great.
Yeah, I think that's very fair. This is also an army that has like one of the most outrageous centerpiece models of the last 5 years too, with Alariel the Everqueen. I mean, that is a crazy looking model. She was kind of paving the way for the god models that we've been having in Age of Sigmar recently.
They also have the lady too who's coming out of the tree that looks super sick too.
Drika, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sylvaneth is funny because it's such a small range, but all of the stuff in the range is really solid. I think there's like 5 things that are in Sylvaneth, not including like their like Underworld's Warband, that are specifically for Age of Sigmar, and they're all really great kits. There's just not very much to them, so this is cool that like you know one more model in such a tiny book is kind of a big deal. So this is cool that they're getting some attention and that they're going in new directions.
It doesn't say that Broken Realms book it's in, right? It just says it's going to be in some Broken Realms book.
Yeah, it doesn't say. We're also not quite sure how long the Broken Realm series is going to be. So they could possibly be. They could cram all this stuff into the 4th book, and maybe that would be the end of it. But we don't know. They might do a Broken Realm Solarial at some point.
Right.
Well, I mean, they did announce a preview, last preview, I want to say. Didn't they announce that that one centaur guy?
Oh, Kragnos, yeah.
Yeah, still big question mark. No idea who that character is. It's all speculation at this point. Couldn't even guess like what Grand Alliance he might be.
Oh, I'm sure he'd be Order, wouldn't he?
I think as well with Carnothi or Order as far as I know, so
If
probably.
he's Karnathi.
I think he will be. It'd be kind of odd if you have a bunch of Centaur people that aren't Carnothi. But yeah, it could be. Who knows? There's still no Broken Realms destruction. Well, actually, to be fair, there's no Broken Realms death either. But I guess the techless one is pretty death centric.
A poor boy Nagash, why you gotta bring up old wounds like that? Well then,
Poor Nagash and all his new battle tomes. He's Nagash is very upset to see any release that is not a death release. It causes him to pound his fist and change the channel.
well, I thought this was Age of Nagash, not Age of Sigmar. Like we're getting here. I thought everything was just death centric.
There's a skeleton in all of us just waiting to come out.
Indeed.
But well then, if we got no more thoughts on this, shall we get to our predictions for Warhammer Fest here?
Ooh.
So Warhammer Fest is not going to be one day this year. Seeing how it's going to be online, it's going to be basically a week, starting next week. And here we go. We got the first day being Age of Sigmar on the 3rd. Anyone want to take a guess? I mean, I'm pretty sure we can guess by some of the banners, but
I hope it's Soul Blight.
Fire Slayers.
Time to save Fire Slayers.
They need something.
They need a lot. Fire Slayers also is one of those things that, like Sylvaneth, it's a small range, but unlike Sylvaneth, some of their models are a bit crap.
Yeah.
They need a lot to save them. Tiny Magma Dross, let's go.
yeah, I would probably be with you guys on this. It'll probably be good old Soul Blight. Maybe a hint at Age of Sigmar 3.0. I mean, I know that's what John's been saying is gonna happen this year. Why not give a little tease, right?
Yeah, I could definitely. I mean, that's my long-term prediction. They're gonna announce 3.0, or for sure, I think they'll announce the next Broken Realms book. But I think that's the realistic prediction. But my hope is just like tease the rest of Soul Blight, and then let's leave it at that.
Well, we'll see. I mean, they've already shown off all the Soulblight models and the book, so I don't.
Oh, and they're gonna tease the Deepkin, the Deepkin Underworld's team. But to respond, I don't think they've.
Well, I think that would be in box
they
games,
have-
wouldn't it?
Yeah, it's gonna be. You're right. It's gonna be in box games. I forgot it's a box game. To respond though, I don't think we've seen all the Soul Blight because I think they're gonna redo Graveguard because the Graveguard are gonna look really weird next to the new models. Like, really, really weird. Because I have Graveguard, and I put them next to the skeletons from Cursed City, and my gosh, they look like they're even worse than like Baby Marines and Primaris.
Those skeletons in Cursed City, though, to be fair, put everyone to shame. Those,
Yeah,
those skeletons feel uncomfortable, like looking at a three-legged puppy. Looking at other skeleton models, they're just like, oh, sorry you weren't sculpted recently. It's I can see that your tibia is not fully formed. Those are good predictions. I think for me the guess would be that they would talk about the next Broken Realms book, just because that could cover a lot of things. And like, if they want to do one shocking thing, revealing a totally new character model, like if they want to make a model of Kragnos, who we still know literally nothing about except for some concept art, that could be a shocking, like, whoa, what's this? Share it to your friends. But with Age of Sigmar, part of the fun is you never know what they're gonna pull out. So it's probably gonna be something cool. I think what's interesting about the schedule is that there's two 40K days.
Yeah, well, I want to retract what I said about it being Soulblight. And you know what? It's gonna be some Wood Elves. This is Age of Elves after all. We need to add another elf army to the mix.
no, they're gonna have elf. The Graveguard are gonna be elf zombies or like elf skeletons.
I can see it. I can see that happening. But next up, we got what's it called? Warhammer on the next day, 40K. I would assume this one's gonna be a light showing. Probably more beast snaggers, the orc line kind of thing.
Yeah, I think Beast Nagas would be. It'll be one of those 2 days, just because that's like that seems like they're concealing a pretty big line there. Because I don't imagine it's just going to be the boys on foot and then the Squig Riders. They'll probably have at least a hero, if not maybe at least 2 more kits in there, I would imagine. If only the day would come where they would release a modern boys kit.
No, we can only hope. But
That's the Christmas that never comes for orcs.
actually, I'll probably retract that as well. You know what? I want to say that the first day will probably be the rest of the Sisters line, probably. So we can finally stop getting sister model Mondays. I think it'll be the rest of the Sisters finally coming out. And then maybe them announcing that there will be the next codex as well. Though, I don't know if they'll give us an official date, seeing how they haven't hit any of their official dates yet. For 40K at least. I haven't been paying attention for the other game systems.
It's gonna be Chaos Demon.
It'll be Chaos Demons? I mean, why not? Belcore just came out and then you got the two new Slaanesh Demons.
Rules.
You just make them up at the table.
There you go. And then the next day will be Black Library. That'd be more John's department, I guess.
Probably Siege of Terra. I hope it's like the next Siege of Terra book. That'd be great. But honestly, I don't know what else kind of. I never really see like big oomph reveals from Black Library like ever. Like unless they do something like I don't even know what could be an oomph release for Black Library.
New Warhammer Fantasy novels. Something crazy. They just like they wheel out, they wheel out a skeleton and be like, "I will write a new novel about Godric and Felix before they all died." That would be interesting to someone.
Someone will
Possibly.
buy it.
Yeah, the Black Library days, they made a little more sense back before the pandemic, when like you would get to go to see panels with like the authors and stuff. Like if they have some like live streams of like the big Black Library authors talking about what their new works are going to be, that would be kind of cool. Something I'm hoping for is maybe like announcing like authors working on Age of Sigmar in particular has sort of lost a lot of its authors recently, and by a lot of I mean Josh Reynolds left, and he wrote 80% of the books. So if they have like Dan Abnett or like ADB or even Graham McNeil or something announce that they're going to write a book about Fire Slayers looking for new models, like that would be amazing. That would be super super cool. Or they could always announce new Eisenhorn novels. It seems like that's what we expect at this point.
Well, he's working on the Beckwin trilogy right now, right? So that would be the only thing. I don't see them continuing Eisenhorn's story yet. Even though he's in the Beckwin series, at least from what I've read. But then again, here we go. Thursday, we got the box games. So I'm sure we'll get Deepkin, as John said earlier.
Come on, Cursed City expansions. Let's go.
That would be so disappointing.
If they were to address Cursed City, they probably would do it during this time. They may decide not to do that for just reasons of they don't want to talk about it and they kind of want to move on and focus on the upcoming big releases. But I could see them, if they do some sort of a live stream, I could see them taking note of that. Because any future box games, like if they release another really hype, these are all new models kind of box game, they have to weigh it against the expectations that Cursed City just set, which were unfortunately more negative than they intended. It'll be an interesting day. Box games are kind of the Wild West with Warhammer properties. Like they can do all kinds of cool stuff. It'll be interesting.
Someone driving by, huh?
So some orcs, man.
Orcs are
Pretending their buggies are still relevant.
Orcs knowing that John doesn't like them. I'm gonna go and throw squig tacos at you.
Hunting them down. Let's see, what other box games? You think they're gonna? No, they wouldn't announce another they wouldn't announce another Necromunda game or gang, right? They'll probably just give a release date for Redemptionist.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. I think that might be there.
I would think they're gonna be there.
Yeah.
If anything, the football game no one cares about. Let's be real here. I don't even remember its name. Underworld? No, okay, yeah, Underworld's we already said.
I think it's realistically it's gonna be Underworlds and Cursed City.
Possibly. I mean, it's just box games, so I assume they're gonna throw everything in there. At least as much as they can.
Blood Bowl is an easy enough thing for them to do, because like there's a new Blood Bowl video game coming out, I think, or something.
There is.
I didn't even know that. Wow.
Blood Bowl 3.
Okay, another game to just ignore. Got it.
Yeah, there you go.
I think that's about it, right? I doubt Blackstone Fortress is gonna get anything. Does Kill Team count as a box game?
Oh my gosh, if it was Kill Team 3.0, 2.0, that would be pretty hype.
Yeah, Kill Team is in a weird spot because of like the Pariah Nexus came out, and Pariah Nexus was a bit of an oddity and sort of proved that like Kill Team doesn't really have a very efficient way to like release new data sheets for things aside from putting them in boxes like that. So Kill Team is sort of in need of a jolt to the arm. Maybe something akin to a more comprehensive reconstruction altogether. So that would be interesting. I'm not sure if Kill Team does count as a box game. Maybe it does. I always thought it was under the Warhammer 40,000 banner, because they typically don't make wholly original models for the purpose of Kill Team,
That's
unless I'm
true.
aside from Rogue Trader, which was an oddity for other reasons. Like generally everything that comes out for Kill Team is also a release for Warhammer 40,000.
Oh, I know a game. Warcry.
Love Warcry.
Haven't had any new releases for Warcry since the 2-player box.
That's true.
Catacombs.
Yeah, there you go.
That was late last year. They could always do more things for Warcry, and that would always be welcome. Box Game Day will be cool just because Box Games is GW flexing their creative muscles and doing weird out there things. So it's gonna be pretty hype. 2 Warhammer 40,000 days.
Yeah, so Friday, another Warhammer 40k. This one is where I think they'd be doing Beast Snaggers and the whole redone of the Orc line.
All right, low key, I would do an Orc Kill Team if with the Beast Naga infantry models. Those are so cool.
They are nice. But I think that's what this is going to be, and then probably this is my hope. Another roadmap of when they're going to release codexes, but we'll see. I'm pretty sure they'll be a little hesitant on that.
Nah, I think this is how it's going to be. So, first day of Warhammer 40,000 is going to just talk about rules of models we've already seen. So, a lot of people are going to go home and be like, well, what was that all about? And then Friday is going to be even more like, they're going to announce they're going to be making hardback copies of the erratas and FAQs. And that's going to be, exciting. And then in the last 10 minutes before everyone's left the stream, Phil Kelly is just going to, roll in and he's going to just say, Avatar of Cain is getting a new model. And then everyone will lose their collective shit. Apologies for profanity, but you
that would be hilarious. Oh, if it was an Avatar, I mean, usually tease like some random model, at the end of these, so that would be great.
That won't happen, but that is the dream.
What did you say, Greg? I heard you talk before I rudely interrupted.
It's an Admech, probably, right?
You think it's gonna be Admech? I think Admech would be on the first day.
Nah, it's more of a day. It's later day,
Possibly. There hasn't been much new model wise for Admech. I mean, because they kind of got all their new models released back in the last LVO kind of thing.
Oh, the Psychic Awakening, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the Marshal is new.
Right. I mean, it seems like everyone's getting at least a character model. I mean, that's what happened with Drukari. They got Lilith, and I thought Sisters were only gonna get the lieutenant they got, but I mean, they got more. They kind of deserve more models, more variety kind of thing. But Admech kind of got a lot of stuff already, and I know Greg thinks they're pretty broken right now. But, I mean, do they really need more?
I think this need to be brought. They'll just announce the codex and stuff.
Oh yeah, but that's why I think it would be. That's why I think the first Tuesday, the first 40k day, would just be directed for Sisters and Admech, right? Because that's
it makes sense too.
And then this 40k, since they quote it with seriously, we have a lot, I would assume they would be jam packing this with other armies that they haven't showcased yet, such as probably the new Orc line, maybe. That's just hopes. Or anything else, really. That's what I think.
So if they do release new boys models, what do the people do with their 200 boys? Are they going to just scrap them and buy 200 new boys because the models are so great?
They'll just get more boys.
Well, you see, they're going to be like, well, Mad Dog has been messing with the fungal code and made Primaris Snagga boys. So these are bigger, badder boys that we have, and you can still use the baby orcs, no problem. That's what.
Weirdly, that might actually be a good way to do it if they make like Def Lads who are exactly the same, cost 1 point more, and have like 3 times better looking models, and then people buy them and they're a new unit, and then just say, "Oh, I'm just using my Def Lads as boys." It's okay. it is a funny thing you bring up, Matt, of like, and you as well, Greg, of like, yeah, these old models, like, what's gonna happen? People have gigantic armies that they've had since like the late 1920s of orc boys, and like, I think most people would hope that they would get resculpt, even if it makes a lot of their old models look bad. But it's an interesting question. Games Workshop kind of loses and wins either way.
Yeah. I mean, it'll be fine. The veterans will always just keep on to their old orcs and models no matter what, because no one wants to buy 200 more boys to play the game.
Yeah, like if they made new guardsmen, I'd just be like, I'm good. I already have like 120 guardsmen. I don't need to revamp them. I might buy like 2 or 3 boxes, right, to make them sergeants look fancy or something like that.
See, this conversation, I think, is why they made Primaris. Because if they said these are just newer Marine models, no one would buy them. Not no one, but less people would buy them. I would certainly would not have bought as many Primaris if they were just updated old Marines.
Def lads, dude. That's what's gonna be. Better orc boys that people will. Because honestly, because it's also like the Primaris thing you bring up, John. Like it's more design space too, making a new unit.
Yeah.
Well, and lastly, on Saturday we'll get a mystery. So, I'm sure it's gonna be Battlefield Gothic, obviously, right?
Oh my gosh, you're joking, but that would be amazing if it was like Horus Heresy Battlefield Gothic. My gosh, it'd be so cool. But it's funny because like the old world and the 30K communities are fighting over which one would get stuff, and it's probably neither of them.
Yeah, I don't think anything, because I mean we're still like 10 years away from Old World ever coming to tabletop. So I highly doubt it'll be Old World. But I mean, unless it's gonna be just like a brand new IP, if we're gonna go stick with regular IP, it's between like what, Epic and Battlefield Gothic, right?
Gosh, I hope it's Battlefield. That'd be so cool if it's Battlefield Gothic. I don't know why I'm so hyped about Battlefield Gothic that you mentioned that. That'd be so cool. Maybe because I just read Scars, which is the first White Scars 30K full novel, and there's a lot of space battles in there. So it's like, oh, that'd be so cool.
But you guys have any predictions on what you think it'll be?
Some Titanicus weapons.
Yes, more upgrade frames.
Well then, I guess we'll have to come back in 2 weeks and find out what we got. We'll be able to at least see the Monday release at least. But the week after that, we'll be able to compare, see what we got.
Indeed.
But I want to move on to some leaked images that we've gotten. I don't know if they made it official or not now, but this was the talk of the town for a little bit. And by a little bit, I mean yesterday. I forgot. First up, I'm gonna bring up the dice. So we got the Mechanicus dice. Pretty nothing special really, I would say. Kind of standard of what they're doing. Bright red Mechanicus symbol is the 6. Great, love it, simple, easy to read. That's all you need.
How do you feel about the dice, Greg?
I have plenty of dice. I don't need more dice. But you could read them, and that's really all that matters.
See? That's all you need. Just need to be able to read it.
I have a bunch of like wooden Mechanicus dice that I got gifted to that I used to keep track of the canticles,
But they're too hard to read.
no, they're fine. It's just wooden dice. They're really light. You can't like roll them or anything. They just.
But now the main thing here, we got the Combat Patrol. And Greg, I'd like your opinion, because I know you played these. Is this a good box?
It'd be nice if the Engine Seer was one of the other tech priests, was like the only gripe, really. Because they have they've gotten a lot, or like a Daedalosa, or like they have a lot of new characters that are like really stashed away in other box sets.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's the fat tech priest, I forget, the Manipulus. He's tucked away in the kill team boxes, and then the Daedalosa is tucked away in Black Fortress. So it'd be cool if they put one of those characters into like this combat patrol, because you can just get an Ingeseer anywhere.
I thought the Manipulus came out on his own.
Did he come out on his own at some point? I know I had to buy a box just to get him out of it.
That was when he was released in a box with a bunch of other stuff for Kill Team. I do remember that. Same way as like the Gene Stealer Killer Morph, the 3-armed like cowboy. They definitely were released in big boxes like that.
Yeah, okay. I definitely bought 3 of the Kill Team boxes for the 3 Kellamore, but I also, I mean, you need 15 acolytes or anyways. It's not like you're running out of space there. It's a fine box. You get 10 Rangers that are probably Vanguards or Rangers. I'd assume it's still the dual kit. And you get the Cataphrons that do cool things. And you get a Dune Crawler, which is great. Maybe you swap that for a transport, but like they're all great models. They're all great units. My only gripe is the character, really.
So overall, a solid box to get.
Yeah. I think in the end, unless rules change greatly, if you're buying it, you're going to be short Cataphrons because usually you don't bring 3 Cataphrons, you bring like 18 plus of them or something like that. So, but as a starter box, it's great.
So there really needs to be a start collecting Cataphrons.
Yeah, exactly. Just replace the Rangers with Cataphrons and replace the Dune Crawler with Cataphrons.
A little Cataphron hero that has like a hood on it.
Exactly.
To lead your other Cataphrons.
Just take the guy's legs off and put him on a tank.
Yes.
Well then, I really wanted to get your opinion since, like I said, you played this army a lot back in the day. Wanted to see if this was a good deal or not.
I don't know what the price was, but I mean, it's good entry-level models for everything. You usually, like, I'm happy I have 3 Doom Crawlers. I'm happy I have, like, 60 infantry guys. And you usually want 2 tech priests, so it's not a bad deal having, like, 2 Engineers or whatever, but because they're super cheap characters to fill out battalions.
Perhaps that's why the Engineer is in there, to keep the overall price of the box down and also to encourage it as a multiple purchase kind of box. Because like I guess if it was a Magos like the older start collecting used to be, well it would be, I don't know. I'm not sure how many Magoses you actually need for a list. It's a tricky one to put the heroes in these boxes that like Games Workshop is definitely intending that you get more than one of.
Yeah, that is a good point because like you don't really run 2 tech where the Magos is, like you're running Call or you're running one of them. You don't really run 2 of them, right? In most cases, because you have your one big dude and that's it. And then if they had that just had the normal guy, you end up with just a bunch of spare parts.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why that in a similar vein that Broken Realm starter set for Nighthaunt a couple weeks back was baffling. The one that had Lady Olinder in the middle. It's like, you're never gonna get this box more than once. Always odd to do things like that. But it's a shame that that you feel that the Engineer is not the right choice, Greg. I am curious though, if I might ask, Greg, what would the ideal like combat patrol box be like if you were the guy making those selections? Is like what would be in there? Like what would be the best sort of like starter? Would you say?
This is going to go completely like, I love Electro Priests. They're the best. So you put 10 Electro Priests in there without a doubt.
Amazing.
They can't walk across the table by themselves, so they need a transport. So you put them in a car. So they're obviously taking the new car, the
Right.
Dune Rider or whatever it is, right? So you need that.
And I get the Winnebago.
And then the rest of it doesn't matter.
It's just no character. It's like the exciting new Electro Priest transport playset.
But you can't fit the character in there though. So then the character has to walk alongside the car. So then you need another car for the character.
a smaller dune buggy.
Or you take a character and put in like 3 chicken walkers or something like that, right? And you make it not like $800.
our starter sets. That's awesome. That actually saving the chicken walker by putting it in a start collecting set. That is something I think they may do in the next few years.
That'd actually be a
Surprised
good
they didn't
idea.
do it here.
Because the chicken walkers are really expensive on their own, and it feels really bad buying one, to be honest. Because you're like, well, I'd like to run a unit of like 3 or 4 or 5 of them. Now I have to buy 3 or 4 individual models, and they don't feel like an individual model kit, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
They're going for like what, $60, right?
Something like that. So you just throw 2 of them in the box.
A lot of stuff with Mechanicus is like high in price, low in points. I mean, they're all really high quality miniatures. At least in my opinion, I don't have any Mechanicus, but like, yeah, that's a tough situation to be in.
Just laugh at the
John,
Swordmasters.
John, you were on record before saying that like when people ask like what is the worst like value for money, it's like usually these
It's the
Mechanicus
horses.
units.
Yeah, it's the horses. I think because like they're the same price as 10 intercessors, and 10 intercessors is like 200 something points, and 3 horses is like what 60. You're trying to keep them cheap.
Yep. I have 18 of them, so.
Oh, there you go.
Awesome, doing it right.
Now, to be fair though, like you could argue that like they're detailed kits and all that. I'm still laughing at the high elf blade masters, the new ones. It's like they're the same price as 5 kangaroos, and I'm pretty sure those kangaroos are like more detailed and bigger than these 5 dinky elves. But they both cost $60. That's like okay.
Yeah, so somebody went mad with the original Lumineth release that had the 5-man unit that was 60. I think that's the reason the Blade Lords are the same, is to not make that other unit look quite so shocking by comparison. But it's a real shame because the cavalry are priced, I think, very well.
Just make them tunes, man. No complaints. Make them tunes.
Well, John, as someone who's starting Admech, what do you feel about this box? You like it?
I played Mechanicum, sir, not Adeptus Mechanicus.
Gee, I'm sorry, I can't really tell the difference, but
memes aside, like I think it's great. As I think I would be nice to have like a better tech priest, because then again I could just see myself buying 3 of these and call if I'm starting it. But again, like I play Admech because I have a Mechanicum 30k army that I'm like counts as Admech. Like my Thanatar counts as a Dune Crawler, and they're based appropriately. But like I have no use for a Dune Crawler. But if I wasn't doing that and I was just starting Admech from scratch, like this is a cool box for sure. I would definitely see myself starting just getting 3 of this and then calling it a day and then working with that.
I sure hope this Tech Priest Engine Seer doesn't listen to our podcast. I feel like we're gonna hurt his feelings after all this.
He's a robot. He doesn't care.
He's just like, nobody wants me in this box.
it's fine. I'm sure someone wants him.
Somewhere.
Hey, man, I always bring him with me. There's always one there, so he's not forgotten. I had him in guard, too. All my instances are painted purple to match my guard army, and I just lucked him out and added him to the Admech.
Wait, you could take him in guard. That's right.
Well then, I think we're good on this topic, unless anyone has any last words.
I hope it's real.
I'm sure it's real. Leak images tend to hard to not be real with GW. But okay, so we'll close that up, and we can go to the subject topic, which I think John brought up. Hold my notes here. Talking about monopose versus multipose kits. Want to start us off, John?
Yeah. As a background, I mean, people who have played Warhammer for a while notice there's a trend in like how model kits are made these days. Before, like Space Marine's a great example. You have like the torso, the legs, the arms, the head, the backpack, shoulder pads. But if you look at the new Primaris kits, sometimes the bodies are less pieces. Like the torso and the legs are fused. the arms are more, they're less generically posed. Heads are the same, heads are just heads. But there's definitely a trend of like the models have more dynamic poses, but you can't really pose them differently from what what it is on the box. I think I like that better because at the end of the day, like the old models weren't very multi-pose either, because it's okay, cool, you could rotate your torso a little bit, but even then, like if you rotate it too much, he looks kind of weird if you look at like the anatomy of a human kind of thing. Like you would be twisting the spine too much, or like his arms could only go up and down a certain way. And I think especially with, I mean, I'm just using Space Marine as an example because that's the biggest change seen there, and Chaos Marines by that extent. But I think it's kit bashing is still like a thing. Like I'm kit bashing a Death Watch kill team, and there's still a ton of bits like I could combine here and there. Like switching an arm. Like I got the Space Wolf Lieutenant, and he's gonna be an Intercessor Sergeant with a power sword, power axe thing, and I just replace his bolter arm with a knife from the Intercessor kit, and it looks cool. I have the Dark Angel Lieutenant. I just swapped his sword and pistol with a bolt gun or a bolt rifle, and it works, right? So I don't really think it's a big of a problem that a lot of graybeards and like really old gamers think, or hobbies think, like, oh no, the new kits are like, they're not multi-pose, or they're monopose. You can't really do cool things with them. Like, nah, I think you can. You can always cut them up like always. So that's my surface take on it. How about you guys?
Well, as someone who doesn't really like building models, I don't really. I kind of like just easy to pose kind of things. Because I'm not a big converter. I don't really convert models unless I really need to do it for money reasons. Because who wants to buy 6 grotesque models that are what, $45 a piece, when you can just buy the Storm Fiends and convert those, right? Perfect, easy to easy to convert, easy to do whatever. But I prefer it to just be simple. Monopose, I don't really care. As long as it's painted nice, it'll look good no matter what. Even if you got the 100 slump orc boys running across the field kind of deal. But converting models or putting them in different poses, it's just nothing I really do. I just want to get them on. I just want to get them built, get them on the field, and play games with them. That's what I like to do. You'll never see me with crazy conversions or anything. So my army will usually always be pretty boring, bland, however you want to look at it. Nothing too crazy. I don't know how Greg feels, because I know his models are always nice looking. Though I don't really see too much conversion.
It's in between, depending on what I'm playing with. I think I'd rather just have better quality sculpts that are monopose than being able to move the torso a little bit to the left and right, because you can do more with that stuff. Like with those Electro Priest boxes, they give you 2 sets of arms, right? So you can make the jazz hands and the disco staffs. I built them all with disco staffs, but I also now have 40 arms that I'm going to probably glue to the acolytes, if I recall correctly, from the Beaky Boys.
Mm-hmm.
The Zinch guys or whatever, the Zinch cultist. And
okay.
Those arms should fit pretty nicely on there, and then grab some of the extra Admech bits and just throw them together is my plan to make the rest of my Electro Priest. And those are both monopose kits, I believe, because the biceps and stuff are keyed, so you can't really do much with them. But that's taking 2 mono kits and jamming them together to make another one, so I don't see any problem with it because both of the sculpts look really good.
But you will, what's your take?
So it's interesting, right? So monopose is not a new thing. Games Workshop models have been either monopose or like more or less monopose like forever. Particularly things for characters and like big monsters and stuff. Like you can have weapon options on a lot of kits. Like aside from the very oldest, Carnifexes and like Warhammer Giants and stuff. Like like everything has gotten, even the most sort of monopose kits like still have some degree of variety in them, even with characters. Like the new Abaddon, the spoiler model, has 3 faceplates. It's not a major like amount of bits, but like he's monopose, and so was his model from 20 years ago. I think the thing that's more interesting that I heard everybody say is that it sounds like you all use bits for stuff. Is that incorrect?
That's 100% correct.
Yep.
So the thing with the GW kits is a lot of the way they're moving now is not necessarily monopose or like multipose. I'm not sure if it was ever really a thing, because like moving arms and like turning heads around is still something you can do with like conversion work. Like anybody who really wants to make a conversion then and has the ability to use and has like skill with green stuff and like hacksaws and stuff like that, you can do all sorts of crazy things. But bits, I think, are a big part of the value when you get a Warhammer kit from a GW kit, because you can use them to make your things look a little bit more distinct. You can use them to kit bash. So, like John, you mentioned like you have the Primaris Space Wolves Lieutenant, and you're going to be converting him into something.
I'm sorry.
Is that right?
I'm sorry. Say that one more time.
It sounded like John was converting his like Primaris Space Wolves Lieutenant into something. Is that correct?
Yeah, just an arm and base swap, and he's now a Death Watch Intercessor Sergeant. On the shoulder,
Right.
the Death Watch shoulder bit.
And that's a monopose kit. But where did you source the conversion pieces from? Like, how did you make that conversion work?
Other monopose kits.
Other monopose kits. So then, because something that John and I have talked about before is like a question of like the value of bits. Like, are bits something that is valuable, or like would it be better if we just had like more monopose stuff that didn't leave you with a whole bunch of options, and like you just sort of had good looking models that were more straightforward to build and would just look like good little statues, and you build them, you paint them, and you're good to go?
I think bits are good, but I think some bits are better than others. There's just some bits that are like, the example I like is a head, like a Space Marine head, sized head or helmet. That's a very useful bit because you could swap it out. I put like a Mark 7 helmet on my Death Watch Imperial Fist guy because I think that fits the theme he's going for. I put a hooded Dark Angel veteran head on my Dark Angel guy because that fits. But there's some heads that are like, there's the head and the face are separate. And if I pick a face for that head, cool, but the rest of the faces aren't very useful bits because it's like, half a face. It's not even like easy to work with. I mean, I'm sure you could come up with use for it, right? But
that's not really, at that point it's not even a bit anymore. It's like a byproduct.
Yeah. And there's some bits too, like a random sensor, I mean, grenades are like hit or miss because like they're cool, but at the same time it's like, oh, there's a crap ton of grenades and that I have. So there's that sliding scale. And I think usually free hanging stuff is the more useful bit, kinds like Space Marine shoulder pads, amazing. I kind of find that in Age of Sigmar models have less useful bits just because like fantasy models, because if you look at futuristic 40k, right, like if you look at power armored guys or Admech guys or guardsmen or Chaos Marines, like like it's easy to make something that's detachable that could fit or not, like again, like pouches, like pistol holsters or bolt pistols attached, that mag lock to their legs. But if you look at like a Stormcast, it's not really a lot of bits you could leave out or keep in that are optional. So I find that Age of Sigmar has way less useful bits, but that's just a virtue of being fantasy models compared to 40k's more military sci-fi stuff. So I guess long story short is that I think bits as a whole are useful, but some bits are definitely more useful than others, and some bits are just useless. in my opinion.
Yeah, but it's always nice to have the bits to just do whatever you want, really. That's how you get your cool conversions going. Like
I would I would agree with that.
like how Greg just said that if they made new guardsmen, you know, he'd be able to just buy the box just to upgrade his sergeants, make them look nice, kind of deal.
Yep, just so they stood out a little bit more because they blend right in when you have like 120 or something. They just kind of disappear.
Yeah, particularly like, and that's the ancient tradition of the hobby too, is like making it sort of your dudes and making a project like distinctly your own, and like converting is the easiest way to do that and the most distinctive way to do that. I mean, obviously you can always pick like a really distinct paint scheme, but like when you convert a model, like you're making it more yours than it otherwise would have been. Like those Zinch cultists, or no, not sorry, the Zinch cultists that you're using to turn into electro priests. Like that idea would never have occurred to me, but it sounds like you're making it work. I'm not even sure then, because some bits are definitely not useful. Like some bits, like you'll end up with extra weapons, or half of a barrel of something that like you can't use. Like those are effectively, if they don't end up on as basing material, like you can't use them. But to a certain degree, that's also what you're paying for when you get a GW kit. Like that's probably part of the tooling that happens. Like even if you never use a plasma gun on any of your like Imperial Guard squads, you're still getting one, and you're still paying for one to some degree.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's why they box tags cost like $60 all the time. It's all those extra
Right.
bits.
Yeah. Sometimes they're $60 and they have no extra bits. It just sort of depends, like, because the advantage of the best place to be in is to have monopose and multipose options of the same unit, which is very rare, but it does happen. Like Chaos Space Marines and Shadow Spear, there's a squad of 10 Chaos Space Marines with very limited options. Like I think you can swap their head, maybe. You've worked with those more recently than I have, John.
Not even their heads.
The heads are keyed.
Yeah, some of the heads are keyed.
Oh, so they have no options.
Now you could easily snip the keyed part off and then put a new head in, but the Shadow Spear ones, and same for the Primaris infiltrators in that kit, are like 110% easy build monopose versions of like not incredibly, but like for traditionally, kit bash friendly kits, which are Space Marines and Chaos Marines.
Right.
Now, the full kits for those are very kit bash friendly. I think the Chaos Space Marine full kit is a great example of, you could have 10 models that are armed differently that look relatively different. And by that I mean you could equip, I think, 7 of them with chain swords and bolt pistols, and 7 of them, or give those 7 guys bolters, and then you could give 2 of them a combination of special and heavy weapons. And there's the aspiring champion unit leader who can also have a variety of weapons. And those 7 guys that have bolters or the close combat weapons, like, you could tell, like, well, this guy has a running pose, so he looks different. But like, if you have those two squads side by side, they look pretty distinct, and that's 20 semi-unique poses in a kit, right?
Yeah. Of just the multi-kit you're talking about.
Yeah.
And then like, what were you saying, Greg?
And then you can skip their legs and slap them on top of the Blood Brides or whatever. The ones, the snake ladies. I forgot the name. The Medusae. That's what I did to have a bunch of Chaos Bikers and Possess, because then I just swapped the base from like a 32 mil to the biker base. They're like oval one.
That's a super cool conversion.
And that brings a good. Oh, go ahead, Greg. Sorry.
And then there's still all the other extra parts of the Muldrathi, which I can use for Slanesh, whatchamacallit, whatever I want to do, Slanesh Heralds or Seekers or whatever, because then you have a bunch of torsos and Medusa heads that look pretty Slaneshy.
I was going to say, like, Greg brings up, I think what you're doing, Greg, it brings up a good point of, like, if you have a hobby knife or any, like, cutting tool, like, you could do anything, Monopose be damned, like, if you know like if you know where to cut and where to like glue parts in, you could do a lot of cool stuff like you're possessed, so I, I think for me at the end of the day, it's like you're limited by you could still do stuff even though it's monopose, but still I would still stand by my statement that it's way easier for 40k than in AOS in my experience.
Well, as long as you got the creative drive, you know, you can do anything with the model, almost anything with the models.
I agree with the Sigmar versus 40k though, because the Sigmar is a little bit. Each army is very stylized, and it's hard to split between them unless you're just jamming them in chaos things, because you can put anything in chaos.
Right. There's less. I mean, you're not likely to have a sort of a Gene Stealer cult's Imperial Guard situation. I think that's because the models are, are more wildly different from each other. Like you can kind of tell like when somebody's done a conversion, like using something from like Skaven and Beastmen. They're both sort of animal beast themed things in chaos, and they look nothing like each other. You can't easily sort of kit bash them together unless you're sort of saying that like, yeah, these are my super roided out beastmen using Stormfiend bodies. Like it just doesn't quite work. I guess that's a weakness of the system, but yeah, like whereas you just have ammo pouches and grenades and stuff, I guess that's a little more universal until you start getting into the aliens, because like Necrons and Eldar, like there's not a whole lot of conversion potential outside of like those species. Not that
Right,
I've
but
seen.
but even in faction, you could be very creative. Like you could stick immortal arms on a Lich Guard body, and you have like a more standing up straight immortal, or you can give like flayed one arms on the immortals, or on the sorry, you can give Lich Guard arms on the immortals, and you have more hunched over, more bulky Lich Guard, right? And same for Eldar, you can mix and match like Guardians with Shining Spears and um and Daravengers, but multi-faction for sure is way more limited for the alien species.
I think Eldar had it pretty easy, in my opinion. Um, just the fact that you can just mix and match with a bunch of the AOS models, and it'll look just fine. In my opinion, I mean, going from a couple white dwarfs that I've seen in the past, the Wood Elves used to make good Rangers models, Pathfinders as well. If you did the right conversions for them.
That brings up an interesting thing too, of that in general, it's even though you can kind of use fantasy models as the basis for 40k things, it's much harder to do the reverse.
Yeah.
There's no way to turn an Imperial Guardsman into, well, I'm sure there is a way, but like, people take like Empire or, Cities of Sigmar miniatures and convert them into Imperial Guard regiments. Like they even recommend that in the Astra Militarum codexes. Can't go the other way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like I
it's
see a lot of cool
unfortunate.
like Dark Mechanicum Night Haunt stuff, but I can't imagine using 40k stuff to make Night Haunt.
Yeah.
No, not likely to happen with that combination.
Yeah, if you got if you've got a gun somewhere, or if it's got like like a hose or a tube or something sticking out of it, like Caradrons maybe, and I've seen some Caradron Overlords conversions that use like science fiction bits, but that is a extreme case.
Well, like I said, limited by your creative mind. You can probably make a lot of stuff work, but you just got to be creative enough to make it work.
I think my last sort of thought on that then is just like I think bits are great. I think bits are something that should hopefully always like stick around to some degree, but obviously like uh I would much rather have, if I had to pick, I would much rather have models that have really good poses and really good sculpts than having things that are sort of half-assed, like that are, because with the old Marines, right? Like you can only do so much. Like legs in particular, I've never really been multipose.
Yeah.
Even on biological things like Tyranid warriors, like those guys, they have circle joints all over them except for their legs. Those legs have polygonal keys on there. They have to make the model stand up. Can't really change that up very much.
Some of the Gene Stealers too.
Well, I think we can move on to our final section, shall we?
Yeah.
And as the hobby rant section. So, let's start off with our special guest, Greg. What are you up to, Greg? Hobby-wise, life-wise, whatever you want to talk about.
Mostly shining on finishing up the Custode commission. Or like not aggressively going at it.
I don't think these two have seen the Custode commissions going on.
Well,
send us a
pass
picture.
it off to someone else to talk, and I'll post some pictures. How about that?
Sounds perfect.
Ooh.
I'll start putting them up.
What about you, Matt? Me and Will's hobby week was pretty similar.
Me, unfortunately, like I said last week, I am not doing too much hobbying just because as COVID's getting less in here, I'm doing a lot more stuff work-wise that I need to get done. So next week I should be able to start getting in some more games and doing some hobbying and all that great stuff. But
nice.
As of right now, the only little hobby things I've been able to do is just paint up a little bit of Daughters of Cain, and that's about all I'm getting.
Yeah.
Prepping for 3.0.
Hell yeah. So what about you guys? You guys said you're similar?
We played some Cursed City.
Oh yeah? How was it?
Why don't you go first, Will?
Oh no, you should go first because you threw us both under the bus.
I did.
You revealed what we did.
I think okay. You do not get this game for the game. As a game, it is very like mediocre as the gameplay, like if just cardboard with like tokens, it would not be a very fun experience. However, the lore and the models really make it super fun. I really felt that like my characters were like fighting, Radukar and his minions, and then the mechanics kind of help with that. Like there's a nighttime cycle, and like so long. TLDR, like what happened was we played our first mission, which was to defeat some enemy champions to reduce the strength of the final boss has on the city. And then at the end of the mission, there's a table we roll to see like a post mission event. And what happened was our airship crashed at nighttime, and at nighttime the enemies are like way more powerful. So we decided to do like a scavenge mission. So fluff wise, it was kind of like our airship crashed and we were scavenging for supplies, which was I think that was super thematic and cool.
We literally broke into a haunted mansion to steal treasure while there were night crazed armies of undead trying to slit our throats. It was a blast. The game, I think, as you sort of said, John, like a huge part of its success is the models and the background. If it was cardboard cutouts, I think the immersion wouldn't sell it to me quite as much. But the game really, they put a lot of effort into it. Like there's a table of like 160 things that can happen, and sort of like a choose your own adventure way of like if like a crisis occurs, like you get to look in this table and like you can choose to see what occurs. Like we had we actually one of our companions, like he rolled on the table and like a drunken nobleman stumbles into the mansion, and like do you either warn him of the undead, rob him blind, or ignore him? We got the same thing more than once by insane happenstance. And the first time he attempted to rob him, and the second time he hid him in a hay bale so he wouldn't be eaten by zombies. It was a lot more fun than I was expecting it to be, and I actually didn't have super low expectations either. It was a lot of fun. I'm working on adversaries for it right now.
No, it's good to know that it's an okay game. I guess it would be the best way of saying it.
Yeah, like long story short, like you play it because of the models and because it's Warhammer.
And the
And
models are beautiful.
Oh yeah.
yeah, it's the whole kit. I mean, all of the stuff in there, including the cardboard and dice components that almost assuredly are why the game is sold out right now. Like all of that stuff, they did very well on. It's a having played only 2 of the previous modern Warhammer quests, it's definitely better than the other 2. Like they've iterated on the things that could have been improved on in the previous boxes. Um, it's super cool. Hopefully, Games Workshop will make it possible that more people can get their hands on it. And I'm sure company wants to make money. If they can make more, they will do their damnedest to make it happen.
Side note, that was really funny. So the first mission, the first model previewed, which is like the shovel guy that looks like he's from Dark Souls, he spawned like two tiles from our deployment zone.
Right.
So we just spent our first activation frantically trying to kill him. And we barely did, but it was just hilarious that like he's like, "Hey, I'm the first model. Hello."
Yeah, I was like, okay, there could be zombie rats or maybe some skeletons. No, he was right there.
Yep.
He's like, welcome to the board game. I'm here to kill you. We got him first. Well, these custodians are really cool, Greg.
Yeah, these are
purple
dope.
and gold, purple and bronze, sort of.
Yeah.
Yep. For
What a-
rustic look. I think I'm missing some of the colors on the Terminators. There's more updated ones, like the power weapons and stuff.
Gosh, sorry, like purple and gold is such a good combination. Like every time I see like some Emperor's Children painted like that for 30K, I'm like, gosh, I wish Fulgrim was a good book because I would totally jump on this project.
I should post some pictures of my Chaos then that's not Death Guard because I use that purple and gold again.
Yeah,
But I did it's not purple, it's Warlord's pink or whatever. It's a Vallejo color. It's just like the perfect color. It's like Screamer pink, but pops way more. And then you just fade that into like a dark blue, and it just gives you this really sick purple.
oh,
pink.
that's cool.
Yeah, and this is a commission work, right?
Yeah.
Just
The purple. This is the first time I also used liquid masking, which came out really. So all the purple was done before, and then you paint the gold over, and that's always one of those things where you're like, "Well, I hope this works," because if it doesn't, I'm starting from scratch again. It's just always a worry. But it came out really good with even the liquid, the matte. Whatchamacallit? The liquid masking. There we go. Sorry, words don't work right now.
No, it looks dope, man. I love that. I love that purple, pink, and the bronze gold.
very slick on the vehicle. But I think that is a good time to call it there. So I'd like to thank Greg for coming around and hanging out with us. Always fun to have you.
Heck yeah. Oh,
Absolutely. Absolutely, your insight on Mechanicus was very, very important to know.
Grease forever, man.
Yes. And I think until next time, we'll see everyone later. So,
have a good one, guys.
goodbye.
Bye.